Bonjour. For all of you who are interested in Parsons Paris, I'd like to welcome you. My name is Susan Taylor-Leduc, and I am the Dean of Parsons Paris, and it's a great pleasure to be here. I think you can thank me for bringing this fabulous weather all the way from Paris. So I wanted to give you a quick little PowerPoint to show you a little bit about Parsons Paris, but I also wanted you to know that the New School in Parsons has had a presence in Paris since 1921, and we have been offering study abroad opportunities, but in the opening of our campus in 2013, we are really considering that we are a global university and that we have Parsons Paris as our hub, and we create programs and opportunities for learning that are complementary to New York, but also at a much different scale. That scale is much more intimate, and that allows us for, although I'm sure you all know that Parsons has the absolute, not only best reputation for being the best design school in the country, but also for its class size. And that's true in New York, but it's also especially true in Paris, where none of our classes are greater than 16. And in addition, although it's wonderful to be in New York and go between all of these buildings, in our one building, we have really the opportunity to develop transdisciplinary teaching across the curriculum in ways that are really innovative. And that allows us to really exploit what you would best want in Paris, which is kind of an atelier, a more studio-oriented, intimate experience. We also are supporting so much this idea that Paris is a global hub that we're creating a program that we'll be launching for you, actually, called 1 Degree, 2 Cities, which very much is an opportunity to study in both cities. Either 2 years in New York, 2 years in Paris, 2 years in Paris, 2 years in New York, and then the opportunity to have graduate programs as well. So I'll be happy to answer your questions, and I'll start off by giving you just this little PowerPoint. You can see where Parsons Paris is on the map. For those of you who have studied French ever since you were in high school, or you're still in high school, still studying French, and have dreamed of coming to Paris, we are in an absolutely amazing location, which is right in between the Tuileries Gardens and the Opéra de Paris. So we're very centrally located, for those of you who know the city very well, on the #1 metro line, and that allows our students to take classes at the museums that are right down the street, including the Musée des Arts Décoratifs, where we actually have dedicated classroom space, as well as the Louvre and many, many other opportunities that are really right in the center of the city. Our housing is also located in the center of the city, so that transport time and just being able to really immerse yourself in the urban experience of both Paris and New York, if you're going in between the two campuses, is really an advantage. So this is our quite beautiful building, and you can see that on the very what we call in France the rez-de-chaussée, the first floor, is our gallery space, and we use that gallery very much for student-led projects that are using cross-disciplinary work, as well as opportunities for students to curate, as well as to show their work. So it's really a very vibrant space. And then you can see, going up the map, kind of where all of our maker labs, hack lab, our fashion studios, our digital lab, and then at the very tippy top, where you see one of those lions, that's my office. So you're also welcome to visit it while you're there. This is, again, a shot of the front gallery space. And then these are the programs that we have in Parsons Paris. We have the first year program, which is completely identical to the first year program that's in New York. We have a BFA in Art, Media, and Technology. We also have an MFA in Design and Technology. We have a BFA in Fashion Design, a BBA in Strategic Design and Management, and we have liberal arts courses and master's degrees in the art art, design, history, and theory. So coming to Parsons Paris, you would automatically go into those programs, or you would apply directly for those programs. So Jason Paul McCarthy is the professor, the director of the fashion program. These are some of the courses that he teaches, as well as some of the events, special programming. And for those of you who are interested in fashion, we do have an amazing relationship with In Digital Media, which today has become Vogue.com, where during Paris Fashion Week, they live in our gallery twice a year. And our students have the opportunity to go to all of the Paris Fashion Week fashion shows behind the scenes, which is either sometimes, this last time they ended up doing dressing for the models for the Chalons show, but it's quite for those interested in photography, those interested in media, and those just interested in seeing fashion. It's a once-in-a-lifetime experience, or if you're there for more than 1 year, twice, 3 or 4 year in a lifetime experience, but quite an exceptional one. And we've also had the possibility to curate shows about what it means to have a fashion show in our gallery. But all of this is run under the direction of Jason Paul McCarthy. This is an example of student work, probably from the sophomore year. This is an example of our studio space, which you can see is been completely renovated so that we have an enormous amount of light and up to really unbelievable facilities and access for everyone who works in the fashion studios. This is one of our other professors working with our student who graduated last year, and sewing machines. And this is our fashion show. We had a fashion show, a runway show for our last year seniors, which was quite exceptional in the space of, oh, now I'm blanking out on the name. It'll come back to me. I want to say Jimmy Shoe, but that's the shoes, and that's not what it is. It's Le Rue de Maille on knitwear. I'd like to introduce you, this is our Emmanuel Guy, who's the director of our master's in the history of design and curatorial studies. He's a specialist in 20th century art and 21st century art, and he is in charge of all the liberal arts electives, including the library resources, research workshops, a gallery. He's very active in the gallery committee, and in particular, our collaboration with les Arts Décoratifs and the Centre National des Arts Plastiques. As I mentioned before, for les Arts Décoratifs, we have a very special relationship. Again, in particular for our fashion students, we have unique entrance to, or access in a course to their archive, which literally is where they conserve or keep all of their collections of the history of fashion. So when I was working to build this relationship, you go into this incredible space that looks like a fortified container, and you pull back the draperies, and you see all costumes, shoes, hats, pins, anything that you can imagine from the 18th century onwards. And so our students have the opportunity to study them as fashion students, but also as historians. And they also have the opportunity to work with these historical garments in learning with professionals how to recreate and think about even the body and identity and what it means to change fashions over time in a really unique and historical perspective. So that's just an example. Not only are our classes held there at the Musée des Arts Décoratifs, which this is the library from the Musée des Arts Décoratifs with some of our graduate students. And this is an example of working in one of the museums in Paris, the Musée Guimet. So almost half of our classes for this program are actually on site and in museums. And then this is the nave of the Musée des Arts Décoratifs with Béatrice Quette in the middle in yellow, who is the director of education and makes sure that our students not only have classes there, but have unique access to the collections. Benjamin Garon is the director of our BFA in Art, Media, and Technology, which is interested in the intersections between art and new media practices. He's very interested in what happens beyond the screen and how to create new kinds of media, tactical media, but also to understand how media can intervene in the urban environment. He's also, in his own practice, which is called recyclisme, or recycling, very interested in electronic waste. And as you know, as part of Parsons and part of the New School, we endorse and support all of the New School mission, particularly towards sustainability. This is an example of this was an example of an e-waste workshop that actually happened in our gallery for Earth Day last year, of reutilizing thrown away electronics. And this is an example, again, of a demonstration in one of our classrooms. And this is one of the alumni from Parsons, Evan Roth, from the MFA Design Plus Technology program. And Evan is interested in internet landscapes, and he'll actually be teaching at Parsons Paris this spring. And this was his show at our gallery. Carol Overby is visiting us from the New York campus, and she's teaching in the BBA of Strategic Design and Management. She's interested in financial management and business models and planning. She's going to be doing a pop-up shop also in our gallery with our graphic arts students as soon as we come back after the winter break. So we have this opportunity to share faculty between New York and Paris. So often what happens is there are special programs or faculty who decide that they'd like to spend either a semester, a year, or a 2-week intersession in Paris. This is a student show which is called Some Things in Common, which is again dedicated from the BBA program to our sustainability mission, and was about do-it-yourself printing and techniques, and how this starts from what we all hold in common, the Earth's resources. So this was one of our first exhibitions dedicated to that sustainability mission last year. And new economies. This is an example again of the BBA class and how they use our studio spaces. And this is a class that was held at the Cité de Design, which is at the Quai d'Austerlitz, which is also one of our partner institutions. So our students really do have the opportunity to explore all the resources and we also have other partnerships with other institutions in the city. Bridget O'Rourke is the Director of Transcurricular Studies, and also the first year program. And this is an example of first year crits, where we literally have to build walls so that our students can show all of their work. And this is an example of how our students learn digital skills in our digital lab, which is smaller than the lab here, but allows much more access than some of the, there's a complementary because we're using it in such an intimate way on our campus. This is again an exhibition from some of our digital work in the gallery. This is our academic technology. We have a full staff for academic technology. It starts in kind of a prototyping lab. And then we have courses that are kind of hybrid courses that are online with New York, with recitation leaders in both Paris and New York. So we actually have exactly the same furniture, so you really think that your classroom is being beamed in from New York into Paris. The only trouble is keeping track of the 6-hour time difference, especially when the time changes, sometimes in New York and sometimes in Paris. It goes from 5 hours to 6 hours, but basically we have, state-of-the-art technology to allow that to happen. This is also, we have 3D printers, quite a number of them, and a laser cutter, and student workshops to help with that. And this is, again, our gallery and public programming. This was one of our first fashion shows. We can also use it to photograph and learn how to photograph your own work. And we have a rigorous program of guest speakers. This was 2 media artists who are known as Field, who work in Germany. So we do bring in artists, and particularly in the media and technology field, from all over Europe. This was an installation from our artist in residence, Fiona Hallahan, which was called the Octopus's Parlor. It was for experiential design, and she's often works with food as her first material, and that was part of our Designer Days event. So we participate in Design Week, and we use our gallery, and at this point we asked Fiona to come in and do an installation for us. And most recently, those of you who are interested in the history of design and perhaps have heard of Lee Edelcourt, who has joined the Parsons Paris faculty as well as New York Parsons faculty as the Dean of Hybrid Studies. And we recently had a sensorial event on sensory design at her studios called Trends Union. So we're also making outreach to different other designers and partners in the community. And this is an example of a number of the talks that we've had in the past year, not all of them. We've had a student-run symposium. Juliette Paulet is the director of the Centre National des Arts Plastiques, and she worked with Lee Edelcourt on this exhibition on design oracles. We work with Caring on sustainability projects. For those of you interested in sociology, perhaps you've heard of Bruno Latour, who kind of launched our climate change initiatives. As you know, the large climate change event in Paris is going to be happening, the COP21, in less than almost 3 weeks, 2 weeks, we'll launch our event on November 30th. So we've been very involved with all kinds of sustainability projects that our students have been doing on their own and with the aid of faculty over the past few months, and that will culminate in the last week of November and first week in December. And this is how you can learn more about us. I thank you for your attention, and I'm more than happy to answer any questions that you might have about Parsons Paris. Yes? There is not a language requirement. We encourage our students to learn French. All of our courses are taught in English, but as Erin mentioned earlier, if you are not a native English speaker or been to an American high school, you have to pass a TOEFL exam or I'm not sure what the other name of the exam is, TOEFL, ILC, to have a certain level. Yes? Yes, we do have summer programs in both June and in July. Often students use them for exploring the campus, learning about the campus, but also preparing their portfolios for entrance. So we have two intense summer sessions, one in June, but that is for students who are already enrolled in a university, and the one in July is a pre-college program. GPA requirements, the admissions requirements are exactly the same. In fact, it passes through the New York office, so it's 3.3, if I'm remembering what is the average. Yes, we have remarkable partnerships. One of them that is with the École nationale des arts supérieurs décoratifs, which is the design school, the national design school for France. So yes, we have partnerships with them. We have partnerships with Sciences Po, which is a political science. We're building a partnership with a business school, which is ESSEC, a local business school, and that's it for the moment. Those classes at Sciences Po will be in English. In NSAD will be in English or in French. At ESSEC are in English. And yeah, that's how it works now. Yes? Yes, we have a master, the MFA in Design and Technology, which is exactly the same curriculum that it is in New York. So there's often mobility between the campuses. In other words, you can decide to start in New York and then come to Paris, or start in Paris and take a semester in New York, which you can do with almost all of our programs. And the MAT is an Art, Media, and Technology degree, which really in some ways embodies this atelier experience that we have in Paris, because here in an undergraduate, you kind of declare very early on what track you want to take, where in Paris we work with several tracks, all inflected with photography, media, and digital technologies. Not so much game design, but visual communications and design communications. They are learning to code, and they may be experimenting with programming. Yeah. Yes? There are internship opportunities, and it's important to understand that in France, an internship is something that you almost do full-time. It's not like an American internship where you go 2 days a week and do a couple hours, then you come back. So in France, we are developing different kinds of internship possibilities that either start during the intersessions kind of intensely, then maybe part-time, and then intense again at the end of the year, summer internships, or postgraduate internships. And that's really where we're focusing our energy for internships. For the moment, most of our internships have been in kind of sustainability and new entrepreneurial startups, but we're about to announce one with the Fondation Galeries Lafayette, which is a new foundation that is being sponsored by the Galeries Lafayette, who in particular actually wanted to partner with us because of our know-how, I guess our savoir-faire in media and technology. So that's a new foundation that will only open to the public in 2017, but we are already placing our interns there. Yes? We work more, our curriculums are more aligned in order to allow us to really take advantage of 1 degree, 2 cities. The way that the curriculums are aligned is you really want to be able to go back and forth. And since we don't have an AAS program, it's more difficult for us to be on that schedule. We will be developing a program that's similar to the AAS, but on the master's level in the next 12 to 18 months, but as a master's program, because it's an important one in Paris. Fashion's important for us. Any other questions? Anything that I can enlighten you about? How can you integrate the Lang program and the Parsons program? There is a special program, and my colleagues can correct me if I'm wrong, that's called a BAFA, which is allows you to have a Bachelor of Arts from Lang and a Bachelor in Fine Arts from Parsons. We accept Lang students into our program, into our programs at Parsons Paris, and in addition, we ask a Lang faculty to come every spring with what we call a cohort, a group of Lang students. So we are encouraging, particularly in our liberal arts electives, for our students to be able to share classes between Lang and Parsons, so that there is kind of a fluency between being able to go to Lang and being able to go to Parsons while you're at Parsons Paris. Does that answer your question? We have a great commitment to the liberal arts in Paris because the art, design, history, and theory program really creates all of the liberal arts electives for all of the programs. So we are really we work very well with our colleagues from Lang. And in particular, as we develop the 1 degree, 2 cities program, we'll be developing a core curriculum that's really going to be based on understanding both the city of New York and the city of Paris, and encouraging students to really work through a series of courses on both sides of the Atlantic to understand what it means to really be in both cities and take advantage of both cities. Yes? Well, they end up in any kinds of firms that are going to need somebody who's computer savvy and ahead of the curve and creative. So Google would be a nice place. Any of the big design firms, anyone who's really looking for somebody who's not only computer savvy, but has a liberal arts background, can communicate well, and be able to adapt in a really creative way to how new technologies are going to be integrated in the future. It's really a future-looking degree, and the art, media, and technology one, it is important to know that in Paris, it doesn't include studio art or architecture, because if we go back to the very first slide, our building space doesn't really allow for big studio spaces. We do digital drawing from iPads and traditional drawing classes, but we do not have big architecture labs or painting labs, okay? But we do have everything you need to develop from prototyping to digital. Well, they're learning to code, they're learning the basics of graphic, they're going through the first year program, they're learning the development of the basics of graphic design and typography, and then they're learning to code, and then a little bit they're going to be experimenting with video, internet programming, going behind the screen, what to do with new kinds of pixels, how to think of creative ways to use the internet, and a little bit of hacking. And I've learned that hacking isn't a nasty word. Hacking can be a really good word. So we use hacking in a positive way. Yes? Transfer credits. We do allow for transfer credits, and again, those have to be evaluated through the admissions team, and we can figure out which classes you would not have to take, although I would really suggest that it's really important that everybody share the first year curriculum, which is incredibly innovative, and it creates a shared cohort. And I think that being able to share with your colleagues and experiment in the first year is really extremely important in a design school. And then after that, it might be possible to take some of those kind of place out of certain courses, but in general, we really want people to really think about having the full Parsons experience. That might be helpful when you're going back and across the Atlantic, back and forth, but we really want you to be able to say that you have a true new school Parsons Paris degree. And that means taking as many courses that are as available to you. Yes? Financial aid does transfer, yes. Did you have a question? Yes? Can you do in any order that you want? What do you mean? Oh, for transferring back and forth? We're going to suggest that you start on one campus and finish at another. The reason why has to do with visa requirements. It's very difficult to go one semester here and then come back because you have the responsibility to take care of your visa requirements as an individual, as a responsible citizen of the world. So it's really best, I think, to think of it as a 2+2, unless you want to come to Parsons Paris for the full 4 years. And in doing that, you would maybe want to come to New York for a year and then come back. So you could still go for a semester or a year to New York. So you could do 2, 1, and then come back, or you could do the full 4, or you could do 2 and 2. So it's pretty flexible, but it's something that we are working with the admissions team to make sure that we can really allow you to have the best of both experiences, but not only the best of both experiences, make it as financially sound and visa safe for housing and visas as you go between the two campuses. Because we want that to be, we don't want any of those issues to cloud your educational experience. I knew you had a question. No, the application process goes to New York, but you indicate that you want to apply to Parsons Paris. Can you apply to both? No, you can't. They're saying no, my admissions team. Is there a residence hall? There's not a residence hall per se, but we have fabulous apartments. So those fabulous apartments have a living room. They're all exactly the same, and they have 4 bedrooms all the way around. But what's the most amazing about those apartments is that they are located within the city walls, so they're never more than a 20-minute metro ride away. And personally, I much prefer to be on the Paris Metro than the New York Metro, I must tell you. So it's, there's never more than a 3-minute wait between trains. So we have that for the first year, and then students can either think about finding shared apartments afterwards, and there's pretty much a word of mouth that makes that extremely easy. It used to be years ago when I used to teach study abroad, it used to be like a nightmare to have apartments, but since Airbnb, apartments have opened up amazingly in Paris, so it's much less of a challenge. But we do assure it for our first-year students. Yes? You can come to the Parsons Paris campus in your first year. Study abroad is a little bit different. Sorry. Study abroad is a little bit different because there are other universities that we have agreements with that are that may be for study abroad. But the advantage of being in Paris is that there's no problem with credit transfer. So we do everything to make it as easy as possible for you. Yes. We're shared curriculum. Shared curriculum at NSAD. What happens is at NSAD and NC Les Ateliers, which are two French design schools, they send students to New York, their own students to New York, and so our students are able to go into their classes and workshops. At ESSEC, it's going to be a shared curriculum on the BBA level, but it's not, that's another 12-month away project. So just in time when you apply. Just in time for you to, when you arrive. It's shared curriculum and shared faculty. And that's why also at NSAD and NC Les Ateliers, we work with teamed faculty. So even if the classes are in French, there's a possibility to have somebody who can understand English. But I think everybody who comes to Paris either has dreamed about speaking French or wants to learn French, and we have a number of classes in French, and either we suggest that you do a little before you come here at the New School, or we make it very easy for you to do there, because even though it's really the best of both worlds. You have an American education. You have the ability to go between Paris and New York. And then when you go outside the door, you have to speak French. So your education becomes incredibly rich and incredibly challenging, but to be able to really make the best of it and understand if you want an internship in Paris, you really should take French. And so we do make that, easy for you. There is a minor at Parsons Paris in creative entrepreneurship. If it's going to be taught by ESSEC, I can't predict that right now, but it is led by our New York faculty or local faculty in the BBA class. But yes, because you're in Paris, that kind of ability to be in art, media, and technology, but take a class in the BBA is very easy. Much easier, I think, because it's a much more intimate scale than actually here. That kind of crossover is something we're really proud of. A specific acceptance rate? We work on exactly the same standards that we have in New York. We do have less spaces, so we are making sure that the fit between those who apply and those who are really ready to accept the challenges of being almost in a trilingual environment are the best for you. It means that you're going to have a very dedicated cohort, make a lot of very close friends, be able to travel with them, not only in Europe and not only, for example, our art design history and theory program went to Milan for the Milan Expo. So there's all kinds of possibilities, but we really in the admissions office, and correct me if I'm wrong, are really looking to make sure that we have the right fit for everyone when they're coming through from New York or Parsons Paris, right? Well, I'm happy to answer questions individually, and I really appreciate your listening to the New School's global campus, our branch campus. We're very proud of it, and I hope to see you all there in the near future. Merci.